Welcome to the Living a Nordic Life podcast, where we explore a simpler, cosier and more intentional life the Nordic way. I'm Fiona McKenna, your Nordic living guide and founder of Living a Nordic Life, where I share all things Nordic living and show you that a Nordic life is the way to bring intentional calm and healthy habits into your own life, wherever you are in the world. Are you looking for ways to bring simplicity, coziness and calm into your life? Well, let me show you how. Visit the Living a Nordic Life website to explore how I can help you on your journey to simple, healthy and happy calm, the Nordic way. You can subscribe to the podcast right here. And if you want regular inspirational emails sent with love from Norway and straight to your inbox, don't forget to subscribe to the Living a Nordic Life newsletters. And so now let's dive into our episode. Shall we unlock a secret power, you and me, right now? Because I have a secret power I want to share with you, and it is to-do lists. Now hear me out, because to-do lists get a lot of bad press, don't they? They're seen as something that uptight Gen Xers like to do. I'm a Gen Xer, I have to tell you. And apparently we need to have lists of things to do ourselves and lists of things to give other people to do. Yellow post-its stuck all around our computer screens and on every surface. Full disclosure here, I hate post-its. Absolutely hate them. And you will never see them in my house, ever, unless somebody brings them in as a joke, which Andre does on the odd occasion. And then I'll see things stuck around all over the place. I hate them because the glue ends up kind of becoming less sticky and they fall off and they disappear underneath a piece of furniture or something, don't they? Or they get all curly when they've been stuck on something for a while. I'm not a Post-its fan. But do you know what? I was never a fan of to-do lists either, or lists in general, until I got Meniere's disease. And Meniere's disease is a rare disease. If you don't know anything about it, maybe you do. But it's a rare disease of the inner ear. And there's no research or very little research done into it, so there's no cure. It's completely incurable, chronic disease that only gets worse. And what happens is the inner ear is a little bit like the inside of a snail shell, but it's very, very tiny. It fills up with liquid inside. It's not supposed to have liquid inside, it's supposed to be completely open. But anyway, it fills up with liquid inside when you have Meniere's disease, and it gives you vertigo, dizziness. Not when you're up on something, or not if you're twirling around or being on a roller coaster or anything like that, just dizziness standing on the ground, doing nothing. And it also makes you feel sick because you get motion sickness and you go deaf. You go deaf on and off, and then eventually after some years you go completely deaf. Most people go completely deaf, so you kind of prepare yourself for it. And like I said, there's no cure for it. There's drugs you can take that stop the dizziness and the vertigo and the nausea, but it really is just, kind of putting a band-aid on it. You just have to accept that, there's the inevitability of what's going to happen when you have Meniere's disease. But not only the vertigo and the nausea and all these other things that go with it, it also affects your cognitive abilities, because the nerve that goes between your ear and your brain is also affected. And that affects your ability to make decisions and to remember things, and it gives you brain fog, which I'm sure you've heard about, that kind of, you can't quite remember what you were supposed to be doing, or you can't quite focus on something. It's really frustrating, and you feel yourself with it, and there's very little that you can do about it. So anyway, not long after I got Meniere's disease, which was about 10 years ago, I realised that I would need to start writing things down because I was forgetting stuff all the time. It was really simple things like phone numbers, and I was working and I was in event management, and I had to write everything down anyway. But I was writing phone numbers down and then going back and looking at them, and they made no sense at all because my brain and my hand just weren't working together. But I was having to write down everything because I was forgetting things. And it didn't go too well at first because I would write something down and then I would forget that I'd written it down, Or I would put the piece of paper down somewhere and forget where I put it. So I started keeping a journal with me, and I started writing to-do lists. And since then, I think I've become a bit of a to-do list expert. So I'm going to share why you should start to-do lists and how to do it. I want to try and turn the tables on to-do lists. And if you're a to-do list hater, which you might be, I hope that I can change your mind, or at least make you think about it a little bit. So don't go anywhere. Hear me out. Let's talk about the benefits of to-do lists first, and then we can get going on how you can start doing it yourself. So I've told you a little bit about my story and why I started making to-do lists, because I felt I had to out of necessity, or I was going to forget things. But to-do lists have a lot of power. Just in a little piece of paper and a short list, there's a huge amount of power in that. Even the smallest to-do list can help us get things done. Just 3 things. That's all it needs to be. They keep our thoughts focused and structured, and they create a concrete plan for us. And this is especially true when we're under pressure or when we're stressed and our brains are occupied elsewhere. You can't cope with everything. I mean, multitasking is really not a thing. You can't do that. You can only do one thing at a time. To-do lists can tackle depression and anxiety. They're not going to cure it. This is not the kind of, let's cure depression with a to-do list. It's not going to happen. But they can help. Making lists allows us to take a little bit of control and manage our stress. You can reduce anxiety simply by writing everything down. You're not worrying about forgetting it. And suddenly, all that brain power and all that weight of remembering everything is removed. And your shoulders can drop. You could breathe a little bit again, because you've written it down and you're not going to forget it. So you don't need to be anxious about that. And you can just relax a little bit. They can make you feel like you're achieving something. Well, not make you feel like you're achieving something. You actually are achieving something. Tell me that ticking things off a list isn't rewarding. It is, isn't it? I know you want to go and do it now. We're like little kids in that respect, aren't we? Giving ourselves a gold star when we've completed a task. And a to-do list is a bit like that. They have the same power. As you see that list diminish and the items crossed off, you can't help but feel a sense of achievement. And it doesn't have to be world-changing things on a to-do list. It can be small things. Start small, but we'll get there in a minute. They give you structure. It's easy, isn't it, to faff our way through the day. You know what faffing is. If you're English, you'll know what faffing is. But if you're not, then faffing is kind of not doing anything particularly constructive. And we all have moments of faffing, and it's okay to do it every now and again, but you don't want to do it all the time. Where we don't really get anything done, or we're just busy, not doing anything particularly useful, but just busy. Even the most disciplined of us can find themselves getting distracted on the odd occasion. It's wearing and tiring to be constantly focused, hyper-focused all day. So to have the reassurance of a list of maybe the less important stuff, I don't know, the things that, you need to do, but they're not kind of up there, with, I absolutely have to get this done by today. But maybe that's a great backup, and it can bring you a level of structure. To-do lists remind you that there is a focus to the day. And let's face it, let's be honest here. Not every single day is perfect, with rainbows and skipping lambkins. I mean, if it is, that's great. And we're looking for the small moments of pleasure anyway, aren't we? We're looking for those little luxuries and those small moments of hunger. But not everything is going to be perfect. We have days that are sabotaged or hijacked by other people. Whether they mean to do it or not, it happens. But lists can remind us that there is structure when everything around us can seem chaotic and beyond our control. We can take a small amount of control. And the most important thing, and the reason I started making to-do lists, is because they stop you from forgetting stuff. The simplest thing of all, and my own motivation, like I said, for starting to-do lists, it's the simplest reason. They help you remember what you were supposed to be doing in the first place. And I'm not talking about going into a room and forgetting what you were there for. We all have a bit of that. I mean, maybe you do want a to-do list for that, who knows? But I'm talking about other things that maybe, get put to the back, or I'll do it tomorrow. You could put them on your to-do list. So, now you've heard my reasons for having a to-do list, how do we start making to-do lists? Now, there aren't any rules here. I'm not going to pretend that there are. But I've got a few little tips, and this is how I do it. Over the years, I've added things, and I've tried different methods. Like I said, writing on scraps of paper and then leaving them lying around and forgetting where they are is not the way to go. And that was how I started. It was not brilliant, I have to say. And then this paper would appear, and I'd be like, that's definitely my handwriting, but I don't remember writing that. But I've got some secrets of my to-do list making. And getting things ticked off on it too, because we don't want to be just making endless lists, do we? We want to give them power. And giving them power means actually ticking the things off. And then screwing that piece of paper up and throwing it away, or burning it, or putting it on the compost heap, or whatever it is you do with it. Or you could keep it if you want to and put it somewhere useful. So, how do we start? Well, I like to start making my lists either in the morning or the night before. Of course, if you find that you suddenly have inspiration and you want to start making a to-do list at lunchtime, don't let me stop you. Do it whenever you want. But I always do mine the night before, because then I can sleep more easily. You might find that you have those moments, which I have as well. You wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you suddenly think, oh my goodness, I have to do so and so. Well, put a piece of paper next to the bed with a pen, and then you can have your brain dump onto the paper, and then you could go back to sleep soundly. And then you can add that to your to-do list in the morning if you want to, or, if you've done it the night before, if you start your to-do list in the morning, you've got your brain dump paper there with you. But you could do it in the morning if you like, and you're fresh and ready and all fired up, ready to tackle the day. But don't do it when you're under pressure. Try and plan it a little bit, which is why I like to do mine the night before, because then I can sit down in the morning, I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do today. Don't be tempted to put a lot of things on it. Do not put more than 5 to 10 things on it. I think maybe if you're starting to do list, 10 is perhaps a little bit too much. It's better to add a couple of things to it, because you have gone through the list and you've ticked everything off and now it's empty, than to list a huge number of things and just feel completely overwhelmed with it, and it puts you off and you never do it. Start with the smallest things. Give yourself some easy wins. You are allowed easy wins, Everything doesn't have to be hard. You are allowed to take the easy option if it's there, especially if it gets you to the same place. Because you find it easy, it doesn't mean that it's not worth doing. Once you're skilled, then you can start with to-do lists of bigger projects. But I find that if I'm feeling overwhelmed, the smaller lists are the way to go, especially if you're feeling a little bit stressed or you're feeling a bit fed up. Make a small 3 bullet point to-do lists. And bullet points are great. It's a lovely way to go. A little star, or perhaps you have a sticker that you want to put next to each item that you do. Make it pretty. And make it something that you want to look at. Not something scruffy that's scribbled on an envelope. But start with the smallest things and start with a short list. Choose something pretty to write it on. It doesn't have to be a piece of scruffy paper or, like I say, the back of an envelope. Make an effort and go and buy a little journal, a to-do list journal. Then you're never going to lose your lists of paper, are you? They're going to be in the journal. A journal's harder to lose. It's a great excuse to go out and get a favourite pen or buy a new favourite pen. If you have something pretty and attractive to write on, you're much more likely to want to use it and to want to keep using it as well, because it'll feel nice to write on. And it'll feel nice to write on good paper as well. And you unlock a creative part of your brain when you actually do handwriting. You can Google that if you want to, but you do. So put pen to paper. It's good for you. And a pretty journal is harder to lose. I speak from experience here. Like I said, I've tried everything. I've tried the bits of paper and I've tried Post-its, no. But the best thing is actually, for me, I find the best thing is a hardback journal and a nice pen, because I'm less likely to lose them. And then I can just keep adding to the list. And if I've got bigger lists or lists of big projects that then need smaller lists attaching to them, everything is there in the journal and I can just keep adding to it and then I can take them off. That way I don't lose it. Here's another secret weapon when it comes to doing anything, actually. Anything at all. Accountability. And if you need accountability, then share your lists. It might be something super important. It might be something really small you just want to share with your partner, your husband or wife or whatever, or your kids or a friend. A small list. These are the things that I'm doing today. But accountability is great. It's been proven that important tasks are much more likely to be completed if we have accountability. That means that you tell somebody that you're doing something or that you are going to do something. And because you've told them, you feel like you have to finish it. And it's not stressful as such. It's motivating. And also, if they're the sort of person who supports you, which I hope they are, then they're going to say, have you done that? How are you getting on with that? And then celebrating your wins with you. And that is another secret weapon to to-do lists or anything that you happen to do. So, it's not rocket science, and it doesn't have to be scary or weird or a little bit uptight or a little bit maybe neurodivergent. We have some of that in our house. So, I know about that, and to-do lists help considerably, I can promise you that. But lists can be incredibly powerful and reassuring in so many ways. So I hope I have convinced you that to-do lists are not something that you should be not doing or doing on a scrappy piece of paper. Please go out and try them. Try maybe 3 things on a to-do list and see if you like it. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll see you in the next episode. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the Living a Nordic Life newsletters so you can get an email when I release a new episode. It's a quick and easy way to keep up with all things Nordic living. Please visit livinganordiclife.com. You can listen to Living a Nordic Life on lots of podcast apps, including Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcasts, and plenty of others. If you've enjoyed the Living a Nordic Life podcast, why not leave me a rating? So that's the end of Living a Nordic Life for today, and I look forward to seeing you next time.